I don't think it's news to anyone that if you want to achieve your goals, you need to set intentions and you need to be proactive about it. There, finished. Ah, but how many of us actually do it? Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because we don't need to debate why we need to set our intentions. We need to learn how, and today's guest is going to help you do just that.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Brian Smith is the founder and senior managing partner of IA Business Advisors, a management consulting firm that he's worked with more than 18,000 CEOs, entrepreneurs, managers, and employees worldwide. Together with his daughter, Mary Griffin, he's authored his latest book, Individual Influence, Finding the I in Team, and shares how to become our best self with everyone we influence. I love the title, and I really wanted to talk about this book. Glad to have you with us. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. So let's dive right in. And I want to start with the book, Individual Influence, Finding the I in Team. So, a lot of times we don't find a book, it finds us. So how did this book find you and your daughter?
Yeah, it found me out of our body of work. We do a lot of work with humans and human interaction with technology and each other. And we've experienced a tremendous amount of conflict, not with just each other, but also with self. So really, it came from our body of work over the last 25 to 30 years, watching technology and watching humans change as technology changes. As for my daughter, Mary, she came out of college with a degree in English. I was writing a book, so I said, how about you help me edit and write this? And we found out that we work amazingly well together. So she joined the company and we started writing together in 2018 and haven't stopped since.
That's great. What a nice thing. First of all, I'm smiling because I've got 3 kids of my own and I'm sitting there with thinking English major. I had a theater major, but who's found some really interesting work. But what a blessing to be able to take that and then be able to not only work together, but find out that you're as compatible as you are. Because as we both know, sitting around and having cereal at the table isn't really the same as working together on a business project. So, wow, what an interesting, good fortune for you two. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it has been. And we've both been very blessed. And so have her siblings and her mother, my wife. It's really become something that has brought the family together also. We have very different conversations once we started doing this work and we started writing about the topics that's in our book and the things that we're trying to teach and to push to be more mainstream and to be more part of human interaction on an everyday basis.
Excellent. My wife edits what I call my blog articles, but I've been writing them for almost 14 years and I get 2 a month. And in a sense, because she edits them, it's brought us a completely different vocabulary and conversation because there's so many topics now that we share that never happened before. So I kind of came in through the back door, but I do get what you mean. Anyway, I'm good for you. That you're a very blessed and fortunate man. Okay, all right. So as I mentioned in the opening, we all set goals and with the intention of achieving them. But you write that unfortunately, far too often there are barriers and setbacks that hijack us from these goals. Let's talk about some of those barriers and setbacks. Tell me, cherry pick a couple of the big ones, and then even as important, if not more important, tell me how we're going to combat them.
I think the number one barrier we have with our intentions is life itself. It is so fast. Things are happening so quickly in our lives, and we are so laser focused on our jobs or our children or our spouses or whatever it is that is capturing our influence and attention at the moment, that we lose track of our intentions, we lose track of our goals, and setting them, as we talk about, setting them is the first step. Developing the tactics is the second step. But really, that's the number one thing that gets in the way of intentions, is just life. And the context of that to each of us is different, because each of us has experienced a different journey, but we all have one thing in common. Life moves fast. We get laser focused on that life. And regardless, until we decide to elevate the intention and make that intention part of that fastness in our world of influence, it generally gets blown by, sideswiped, gone around, or put on the shelf and forgotten about.
Yeah. Okay. And, in the opening, I said, we all want to do it. We know we need to do it, but we don't always do it. So I'm with you so far. Big question is, so how do you combat life? How do you combat life getting in the way?
Yeah, our biggest chapter in our book is called Slow Down. And we talk about how to slow down in different ways. And humans are so different. There's no one size fits all. One of the things we're most proud about is our book is not a, here's one way of doing it, and if you do it this way, you're going to be successful. Here's two ways of doing it, and if you do it this way, it's successful. It's going to be a journey, and that journey starts with slowing down, understanding what makes you go fast, understanding what is influencing you to have behaviors that you do. And then once you understand those, looking at ways to battle things like environmental urgency, people barging into your office, or people that can interrupt you, or being in this subconscious mode, this comfortable focus. What gets you in that focus? Why are you in that focus? And then, am I an immediate gratification person, or do I have a different path to gratification? And if we don't understand what that means, we never really get there. Even with immediate gratification, that gratification's immediate, but those type of people move by it and move on to something else and something else and something else. They always seem to be chasing something. So the slowdown aspect is the foundation of setting intentions.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about emails? Because emails, I see you laughing. I'll leave it at right there. Talk to me about emails, because they absolutely just blitzkrieg our thoughts and our intentions and our goals and our actions. Talk to me about that, and how do we get around that? Because I don't know about you, but I'm getting 70 to 80 a day.
Yeah, so emails are right up there next to text messages, right? Or Teams messages, or whatever way you message. And for us, we recommend time blocking, or some type of task blocking. Some people call it time blocking or task blocking. Setting aside time to focus on those things. That takes a little bit more discipline, because what do you do with it outside of that blocking time? A lot of people say, well, I'll minimize it and put it in the corner, but it'll still distract you.
Yeah.
Identifying that you have an environmental urgency that is called email, and how that environmental urgency influences you is where you need to start. So if the distraction is the ding, or the focus on the screen, take it out of your area of influence, and set an influential tone or something that opens it up in that block of time and puts it in front of you and allows you to focus on it at a time when you can give it your intention, and you can be intentional about your email and whatever is in that email. And when that time is up, move on. And that's usually the way that we work through that with clients to start.
Yeah. I coached a client, a real estate agent, who was had a terrible time. And there's numbers out there, you know them better than I, but when we stop and hear the bing and go look at the email, we're conning ourselves to believe, oh, I'm just going to look at the email, then I'm going to go right back to what I was working on. That there's studies out there, it's 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, it isn't that easy. So as simple as this sounds, because I haven't written a book on this, but with this particular client, we actually went into the settings and just changed it from, I think it was every 30 minutes, it would allow her to know what emails had been accumulating, as opposed to that instant bing the moment they hit her mailbox. And simple as that sounds, it actually really helped her. But that's as far as I got at it.
Yeah, it's interesting some of the hooks and the tools that are available to us within our technology. Like you just said, setting up your system to only grab email every 30 minutes. Um, Setting up rules in your email system to move spam to one place or to a whole nother person, or redirecting certain emails. I mean, there are so many different ways to set up communication systems nowadays. However, setting them up requires slowing down and being intentional about the setup phase also. If we rush through that, we're going to create gaps in those systems, and those gaps are going to be distracting and take us right back to where we started.
Yeah. And folks, if you're listening, you're starting to hear a theme. It's almost becoming a mantra at this point. The man is telling us all to slow down. Individual influence, finding the I in team. I can already sense the one of the themes is slow it all down a little bit. Okay. It's not lost on me. Let's talk about balance a little bit. Okay. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I wrote a book. I won't give you the title because I want to hear about your book. But the book dealt with some balance issues, and I signed thousands of them. Keep it all in balance. Keep it all in balance. Keep it all in balance. Great mantra, great theme. Slow down is going to help us. But how? Any other thoughts to achieve balance? We want it. Most people won't debate it. It's a matter of, can we achieve it?
Yeah, I think, we struggle with balance for the same reasons we've already been talking about. Life goes by so fast. And
Right.
um, it takes me back to why I moved to Oregon in 2004. I had zero balance in my life, and I had a new son and a daughter, and life was just going by me. And I looked up one day, and here's a 4-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a kid in college. And I was lost. Slowing down was a start. Having focus, being intentional about yourself. So one of the things we talk about is you have to be your best self before you can be your best for others. And that's not a selfish thing. Being your best self means prioritizing those personal things, your family, yourself, your family, spending that time with them, making that time quality. In the book, we talk about how to set up your home environment to be less distracting. Also, not having your cell phone at the dinner table is, we could start at the very easy and basic ones. Having a single place in your office or in your home where you do work when you do it. So you're not doing that in front of your children or your wife. You're doing it away from them, so that when you're around them, you can be more intentional and have more focus on them. Being open with your family that you want this balance, and when you decide that you put on those blinders and you get that comfortable focus and you start to ignore your family, that it's okay if they remind you that you're striving towards balance, and have some transparency about this struggle with the people around you, and get some help in changing your behaviors to introduce more balance in your life.
Yeah, and I think you hit it when you threw in there help. To me, as a road warrior and as a guy that's got over 2.5 million miles in the air in my career, and a guy who was out of balance for many years, and I'm very blessed and fortunate to have a wife that helped me get back in balance. I think for me, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, I think one of the first battles we have is admitting that we're out of balance. It's ourselves. You look in the mirror, and I forgot the quote, but I've seen the enemy, and it is me. uh, that's one of the hard ones, and it's almost like an AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Of we have to admit that we have a problem. A lot of people don't see it. The people around them, the people who love them, do. What if you don't have that that structure. And I don't have, that's a tough one for people. Hard to fix a problem when you don't know it's a problem.
Yeah, we address these issues in the book. Individual influence isn't just what we do to others, it's what we do to ourselves. And we have a couple of chapters that go to the heart of what you just said. One's called Who Am I? And we talk about our ego and self-reflection, looking at yourself in the mirror. And that's in your internal mirror. Thinking about your roots and what influenced you to be who you are today. One of our beliefs, and it's the truth, but one of the things we're trying to get people to understand is at this moment in time, you are an accumulation of every influence up to this moment. That's people, that's what you've done. It's left something with you, and it is part of who you are. So understanding that is really important. Understanding who you want to be is really important. Understanding self-deception and how we deceive ourselves and say, oh, I'm okay, or I'm not out of balance, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Listening to our intuition and having better clarity about ourselves. We talk about all of these things in our 4th chapter. And then in the foundation chapter, we dive even deeper into self-awareness. What are our habits? What is our character? What is our perception of reality? And then at the end, we talk about empathy. Empathy has to start with self first. And if we can be empathetic with ourselves about where we came from and the struggles we've had, we have a much better chance of being empathetic to those around us. And when we get to that point, balance starts to really happen.
That's really well said. In individual influence, finding the I in team. I'm assuming I can get that at any online bookstore, Amazon, etc.
That's right, Rob. It's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the major ones. Yes.
Beautiful. Do you have an audio book on it?
We do. We have an ebook. We have an audio book. Matt Kelly is our voice, and he is amazing. And we're so proud to have him. And it's really an easy listen with him reading it.
Outstanding. Good. All right. So there's no excuse for you not to go out there and either read this book or listen to this book or put it on your tablet. But we're talking about things that are really important here. And one of the reasons why I wanted to book Brian is because I'm his client. I happen to have lived this. I told myself many lies. I didn't know I was lying. I looked at my calendar, and every time I'd hear, "But you're on the road so often," I'd say, "In 2.5 months, it all lightens up." But coincidentally, for professional speakers, we're typically booked about 2.5 to 3 months in advance. It's a con job that we play with ourselves. And the sad part is frequently we're unconsciously incompetent. In other words, we don't know that we don't know. We're not aware of it. And that's why it's nice to have others and listen to others around us. So to have a book on this that talks about this and applies process behaviors is just one of the most wonderful things and a great gift that you could give somebody, whether they're in the eye of the storm or waiting at home for the person who's in the eye of the storm. So, and one other thing you say, Brian, which I like is in sales, we call it a whiff 'em. What's in it for me? But you say in your book that if we do this, if we accomplish these goals, if we slow down, we can accomplish more. That's what we call a whiff 'em. Not only what's in it for me is we hold that family and keep them functional, but we can accomplish more. Sell that to this audience a little bit more on how we accomplish more by slowing down.
Yeah, it sounds hard until you put it this way. When we go fast, we miss things. Things become a blur. We don't have situation awareness. We make mistakes, and we oftentimes say, well, I fix my mistakes. I address them head on. The time it takes to do that, the time it takes to slow down, fix a mistake, restart, come back, and then do it again and again and again is way more invasive and way less efficient than if we just slow down to a point where we could do it right the first time. And we don't miss things. We don't take things out of context as often. We understand people better. There's better clarity. The work product gets better. I could go on and peel the onion through any one of those and continue to build on the value of slowing down. It just makes the process cleaner. And when it's cleaner, it's faster. And when it's faster, it's more valuable to us.
Makes sense to me. And then some. And there's your whiffum, folks. Now, I can't let you go without asking about one other piece. Needless to say, we live in a polarized environment. How can we operationalize empathy to help us overcome differences? And I'm talking about political and mainly, but we can talk about gender. But how do we do that in the workplace?
Yeah, so one of the things we added to our book was this thing about bias. And then it came right after our chapter of individualism. And in the United States and around the world, individualism is thought of as almost narcissistic and selfish. And we don't look at it that way. As we move through life, think about what's important. And what I mean by that is when we're by ourselves, the color of somebody's skin, the gender, their sexual preference, they just don't matter. When we get into a team or a group of people working towards a common goal, what matters is the goal. There is no need to think about all those other things that are distractions because they have nothing to do with the end result. Now, I'm sure there's some very enterprising people out there that can come up with some situations where they could say, well, gender matters here or race matters there. But the reality is that if the goal is world peace, it has nothing to do with gender, race, or anything else. It has to do with humans getting along and accepting each other for the uniqueness that we are, and the fact that we're all working towards one goal, which is a viable, happy life that allows us to live in a free society. And freedom's messy, but it's way better than the alternative of dictatorialships or what we get when we have this polarization, which is one side telling another what to do. And that's not freedom, that's dictatorship. So think about these things a little bit more, about why you have the bias and where they come from. What is driving you to have a bias against whatever it is that you're biased against? What's the root cause of it? And is it real? Does it really affect you and your life goals? And I think most people would learn, if they slowed down and got that into focus, that those particular things are actually superficial to what your real personal goals are.
Yeah. Yeah. I deal with trying to change the minds of other people, and I'm asked a similar question. I wrote that question down for you because I really I wanted to hear how you handled it, because I get that question a lot myself, and because I'm supposed to be the guy that can help people change people's minds. And the bottom line, there's a lot. We've got a few days, we can put some process behaviors behind it, but I love the way you address that. And the way I hit it is in a similar way. I tell people, particularly when it becomes a political question, everyone is so dug in on their own views and ideas, but I'm going to change your mind on this idea. I think the rule. I think really, if you want to do that, you have to be willing to have your mind changed. And you want to engage in that kind of conversation, that's fine. But if you're going to sit down at that table, the rules should be, I'm open for change as well. And if we both sit down with and follow that, maybe we can hear each other a little bit more. But usually it's, I have my fingers in my ears, but I'm gonna make you change the way you think. It's impossible. Can't do it that way. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, when you start a conversation like that, you're already headed in the wrong direction, and you're right. And it's such a great way to approach conflict is, how can I go into this conflict with an idea that I might come out of it believing what the other side believes in, and how do I get there? And when we think that way, we're looking for reasons to believe in that person. We have empathy to how they feel, and we're looking for something that we can get a hold of. And
Yeah.
we're asking questions that clarify how we might get a finger hold, and a finger hold goes to a hand hold, and a hand hold goes to a hug, and it goes past it. So you have to, if you can approach conflict that way, whatever that conflict is, you can move yourself forward. You may change and you may fall back where you are, but when you do that, the other person might start to, in kind, treat you the same way.
Love it. Love it. We're on the same page on that one for sure. And you know, we handled that one in about 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes, but that's a big piece. That's really a major piece. Personally, professionally, it gets in a lot of people's way. So I'm glad we got that one out on the table. Let's come down the home stretch with two last questions. All right, one of them would be this: if you could go back in the Wayback Machine and meet a Brian circa 25 years old, what would you give me one or two things that you'd tell him, whisper in his ear, that you've learned? But you only get one or two.
Yeah, well, the first one is get out of your own way. So the younger we are, the more arrogant we are, and our ego gets in the way. We actually talk about ego in our book, and I actually outline some of the ways at that time frame that you just asked me to go back to that I got in my own way. I ruined friendships, I ruined business relationships. I got in my own way. And the second thing is to listen to your elders. They really do have some experience, especially those elders that are in the areas of influence that you're moving through, and that have been there doing the things that you want to do, and they've been successful already. Listen to them. And when you listen to them, they'll probably listen to you back. And that's how evolution happens in industry or in business or whatever it is your particular area of influence is. You start to work together. When you don't listen to them, there's just walls and nobody moves forward.
You know, I have to tell you, I'm not sure. It's such a wide open question, but I honestly think I would, that second point you just made, I really believe if you forced me into that question, I'd say the exact same thing. And at 25, I had the arrogance of, well, how? Who says that person knows more than me? And which, that's arrogance is a nice word for it, by the way. But the reality is, just the experiences. People who now, even in my career, the experiences that we've had, the successes and failures, and hopefully the conscious knowledge that's learned from each one. That's what does it. And that's why we really need to pay attention to people who have lived these experiences. And 25 is a wonderful age. And I'm not beating up on my younger audience here. I'm just saying, pay attention to those who have been there and done that, because even if they did it wrong, they learn from it. I can assure you. All right. Last question. A mentor or two that has shaped. Oh, and one last thing. I really thought one of the two was going to be slow down. So you disappointed me a little bit on that one. But I was talking to a 25-year-old you. Mentors, one or two mentors that shaped your life that really had an impact.
Yeah, so the early mentor I talk about in the book is Jack Danger, and he's the one that gave me a job when I quit the big six accounting firm that I walked away from, and allowed me an opportunity to get into the business that brought me to where I am today. I actually listened to him, but I was actually younger than 25 when that happened, and I was scared out of my mind and didn't know what I was going to do. So I didn't feel I had anything to do but listen to learn. And Jack laid a foundation for me that was built on the structure I got from the military, added to the education I got in school, and gave me something that I could build what we have today on, which was basically be your best self and you'll be the best for others. And then second to that is actually somebody who I I don't have a relationship with. I'll just say his first name's Wayne. People that know me know who I'm talking about. He was a business partner that I had that was older than I, and he was amazingly successful, and I never listened to him. And he's amazingly successful today, but I learned so much about operating a larger business from him. And even though I didn't listen to him at that time, when we went our different ways, the first thing I did when our company started to grow was fall back on everything that he taught me about managing people in a larger organization. And I actually fell back on top of his business acumen and some of the things that he shared with me, some of which is slowing down, having focus, having situational awareness, being your best self, having empathy, listening to learn. And he reinforced all of that. I just didn't realize it until after he was out of my life.
Oh, he's a heck of a guy. I'm curious, does this mystery Wayne know the impact that he had on you?
This is interesting. I've actually sent him a couple of notes that said that. I don't know if he reads them or if he doesn't read those notes. I don't know if he reads our books. I don't know much, and I haven't tried much beyond that. But we have some similar friends, and those friends know exactly how I feel about that relationship. And it wouldn't surprise me if they've said something to him, but that doesn't mean that he listens to them. He could also just say, "I don't want to know."
Well, okay. Well, maybe just a little nudge from Rob Jollis. Maybe you pick up the phone. Maybe make that call. But that sounds like a really important person in your life. And I think, before it's too late, you want to tie that up a little bit. But just a thought, and I'll move off of that. But and go. Listen, you've been a terrific guest. Really enjoyed it. Individual influence, finding the I in team, audio, video, ebook. But my audience knows, and here it comes. Buying the book is half the story. You're going to read it, and then you're going to write a review on that book, because that's what we authors really like. And the algorithms don't lie. Amazon seems to like them too. So go ahead and put the cherry on the sundae there, and not only get yourself a copy, but read it, implement the ideas that you're getting from there. And these are, I love the way it's not easy. Author to author, it is not easy to travel between personal and business with a lot of ideas, but this is the classic book, a classic title that should and does just that. So you really, I'm not sure who I'd recommend not getting this book to. So go grab a copy of this book and make sure that you put a nice review on there. It means a great deal. How do people get a hold of you, Brian?
Well, our website is iabusinessadvisors.com, or you can send me an email. I am very transparent. It's brian@iabusinessadvisors.com. And those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Good. Well, we'll have that on the site. So people, if you missed it, just go to the site. You'll see it on there. Really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. I'm very grateful, and thanks for being on the show. Truly.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it too.
Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, everybody, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.